Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing the least favorite books of 2019 list. I don't know if this should be least favorite or just maybe most disappointing, because I usually don't pick up books that I think I'm gonna hate, so all of the ones I didn't like were quite a disappointment because I was expecting to love them. So let's just call this most disappointing and not be super negative. If I pick your favorite book, I'm sorry, it just means I didn't like it. But you know, it's fine. We all have opinions. These are not in no particular order, they're just kind of books that didn't do it for me this year. When I looked at them, they didn't spark joy, you know. Let's start off with Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. So I watched the movie and I loved it, and then the book really disappointed me. So it tells the story of Nick, whose wife has gone missing, and there's a whole investigation going on, and there's a lot of unreliable narrators, and it's a thriller. I love the movie, and I think I would have liked the book if I didn't know the twist. This just was so boring to get through. I thought the first half was just so slow, and I just didn't care because I knew what it was. So maybe my bad. That's why it's kind of like maybe more of an honorable mention. I was really disappointed, but I don't think it's the book's fault. I think it's my fault for reading it after watching the movie, because they're very similar, you know. It's very close, and with thrillers you gotta go in blind, you know. Then we have Through the Woods, which is a graphic novel, short stories, horror collection. It wasn't awful, I just really didn't love it. Felt a little bit pointless at times because it was so short that we didn't even know what was happening. It was more of an eerie feeling than anything. So that got me a little bit disappointed. The art style was pretty, but I get really grossed out by like gross images, so that didn't do it for me. Again, maybe my bad for picking up a horror graphic novel when I don't like gore, especially in like illustration. It's probably my bad. Next up we have The Kingdom. So I was really hyped for this because I was kind of imagining Westworld-esque kind of thing, because this follows the story of hybrid robots, androids, whatever you want to call it, and they live in this park kind of reminiscent of Disneyland, and they're supposed to be princesses, and they're kind of just like amusement park attractions, supposed to interact with guests, making them happy, and one of them is accused of murder at the very beginning of the book. It was alright. To be fair, this one shouldn't have been as disappointed as I was because it had pretty bad reviews coming in, so I took a chance. I took it from my library, they had it, I loved the cover, so I was just curious. It was quite mediocre, if I'm being honest. As it went on, I liked it less and less and less, so it kind of meandered a lot. So I wouldn't recommend it. I think people were right not to, and that's my bad for not listening, you know. Now we're moving on to the ones that I don't even think it was my fault. I think it was the book's fault, okay? Next up we have That Dark Remember Day, and I feel like it should be higher up, even though this isn't like ordered list. But this book nearly got me in the worst reading slump ever. I hated it so much. It's just this random ass book that I bought on Book Depository years ago because it was quite cheap, and at that time I lived in Poland. I didn't have access to many English books. This probably took like months to arrive. For Book Depository to arrive in Poland, it takes at least a month. At least. And I only read it this year and I hated it so much. This book follows the story of this guy who comes back to a little town where he grew up, and there's something happened years and years and years ago in this town, we don't know what, and then it kind of, I think someone else dies, and we're kind of following the story. I honestly don't remember. I erased it from my memory because it's so bad. I was just so curious what happened years ago that I kept reading. It was not worth it. I'm telling you now, it's not worth it. If you're reading this book, just don't. I mean, if you enjoyed it, I'm sorry, maybe someone enjoyed it. Next up we have Gumiho by Kat Cho. And when I saw this title, I was just instantly enthralled, in love. I just wanted it so bad. I got obsessed. Usually I don't really buy books that close to the release day. I kind of wait, see what people think, because I have so many backlist titles to read, you know. But this one I was like, I'm buying this. Have you seen this cover? It's beautiful. I love the Gumiho. Gumiho is one of Korean mythologies. It talks about Nine-Tailed Fox, and it's kind of like a fox or a female that enthralls men and steals their livers and eats it, and you know, it's just very interesting. I used to be really into Korean everything, So I was so happy. I was like, finally a book talking about Korean mythology. But this was such a disappointment. I feel like the mythology, honestly, was a really small part of it. It was mostly a romance novel, which is fine, but the romance was so not doing it for me. I really didn't care. The main character, Young, she's just, I don't know, not sympathetic to me. And Ji-hoon, he was nice, he was a cute boy, but not enough for me to care. Whole load of nothing happens. This book is actually quite long. This one is just disappointing because I had such high expectations. I loved everything about it in theory. I don't think I'll be continuing with the series. There's much more Korean based books coming out now, so I definitely want to try them because it's so interesting to get some mythology that just isn't Western, just other than Western mythology. I think that's really interesting, so I am interested in that kind of thing. I really want to expand my horizons, but this just wasn't it, sorry. Next up on the list is Nexus by Sasha Alswing and Lindsay Cummings. So I, against the popular opinion, enjoyed Zenith. I don't read much sci-fi, but I thought it was cool. This is a sequel to Zenith. So Zenith is about a group of kind of space pirates. It's all female crew and they're really gritty, very bloody and blah blah blah, powerful females doing their thing. It was great. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was okay. I enjoyed it still. I thought it was cool. I got it. I went to get it signed. It was my first ever signing, you know. I have a lot of sentimental value. Sasha was one of the first ever booktubers I ever watched, so I wanted to be supportive, so I picked up the sequel, and it just wasn't... I just feel like they kind of gave up on it and they didn't care, and the plot was very meh. I don't remember anything. There's no character growth, not much happened. It's not even a thick book, like, honestly, and it almost got me in a reading slump. I was so mad reading this because I was like, I don't want to be in a reading slump. Yeah, it was really disappointing. Really disappointing. Kind of proved true what people were saying about the first book, for me at least. The first book I felt like got some unfair criticism. This one, no one even talked about it, but if they did, the criticism would be fair. Next up, we have Spin the Dons. This is a retelling of Mulan and kind of like Project Runway. That's how it's sold to you. So this girl, she wants to be a master tailor, but to be a master tailor in her world, you have to be a man. So you can be a tailor under someone else if you're a woman, but you cannot own your own shop and be a master tailor, basically. And the king is looking for a new master tailor for like King's Tailor, Royal Tailor? Anyway, a tailor working for the king. So he is putting on a whole contest to find out who's going to be the master tailor because he got a new wife, he wants to impress her, you know, that kind of thing. The main character, whose name I don't remember, is really good at being a tailor. So she pretends to be her brother and she pretends to be him, and she goes to the palace to do the contest. I can't speak today. I actually really enjoyed the first half of this book, which is what it was promised, Mulan retelling with Project Runway kind of vibes, so that was fun. And then the second half of this book comes and it's a completely different book. It's not Project Runway, it is not Mulan, it is some weird ass quest. It was so disjointed and the two halves did not go together, and it's kind of like not what we were promised, and it should have been 2 books or something. I will probably not be picking up the sequel because God knows what we're gonna get there. Next up we have The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. So this book follows the story of a boy. Him and his friends used to draw chalk drawings all over the town, and then something happened, a murder, and they kind of stopped being friends, and as an adult he goes back to town where he was brought up. I think another murder happened, that's why he went back, and then the chalk drawings appear again, and it's kind of like a mystery. I just didn't really enjoy this, if I'm being honest. It had some sexual assault that was quite graphic that I was not expecting. Took me by surprise. The beginning was interesting, but then most of it was just such a slog. I don't even remember how it ended. I don't even remember the mystery, which is only like the most important, like usually the most important part for me. I love knowing who done it kind of thing, but I honestly cannot tell you. I do not remember. I remember almost nothing about this book. It was so forgettable. Honestly, kind of a waste of time. Next up is The School for Good and Evil. It's a middle grade about 2 schools. One is for good, one is for evil. The pupils from the school, once they grow up, they go on to be in fairy tales. There's these 2 girls. One of them is like super pristine and beautiful and helping everyone, blah blah. And then one of them is just like old hag. No, she's not an old hag. She just has dark hair, dark clothes, and like doesn't wash a lot or something like that, and she's considered to be really nasty. The white pure good one goes to school for evil, and the evil one goes to school for good. So it's kind of like whoa, 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 whoa. I was actually really intrigued from hearing about this from Jesse the Reader, because he made it sound so interesting, and I was like wow, like probably I didn't, but he made it sound interesting. I was like wow, the exploration of like what does it mean to be good and evil, and like how our physical appearances and very shallow gestures do not reflect our complexity as humans. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was trying to take on a subject that I don't think it really knew what I wanted to do with. It became so weird, and it just made me uncomfortable, because all the little girls care about is how they look, and like if they don't get the prince they kind of die, kind of. There's just a lot of reference to like, oh, their short skirts and their little legs, blah, blah. But like, they're children. They're what, like 13, 11? I think they're 11. It's disgusting. I don't want to read about that. And then the little boys, like, oh, they had their shirts open, so their stomachs like glistening with water. What are you talking about? What? They're 13. Well, 11. They're 11. What abs do they have? Like, I don't want to look. I don't even hear about that. It's disgusting. And I don't know, it made me uncomfortable. I would not give that to my kid. I don't think it's because I'm too old, you know. I can appreciate a good middle grade, but that wasn't it. It actively made me angry to read it, so I would not recommend it for you, your kid. Now on to what is probably my least favorite book of 2019. Maybe not more disappointing, because I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't like it. And this is Discovery of Witches. Oh my god, don't read this. It's so long, so pointless. I hated so many things about it. I talked about it in the wrap-up that I did in detail, like probably for way too long. So if you want to know like really in-depth thoughts, there you go. From the top of my head, it was pointless. We were just told things. We were literally actively not shown things. Like, it was done on purpose. One time there was like a whole action scene that we hear of because our main character is stuck somewhere else. So we don't even see it. And like, the main character is the most useless person you've ever met. You think Bella's useless? You haven't met this girl. So useless. And all she's ever told is how amazing and special and just like mwah she is. She's not. She hasn't done jack nothing in the whole book, and it was just so long, so boring. I am not going to read the sequel, even though I kind of am curious what's gonna happen. I regret not DNFing it because I had so many negative emotions when reading it. The main guy character was elevated so much in his authority, it made me uncomfortable. There are several times people said you should listen to him, you should do exactly what he says, you shouldn't even question what he says, just do it. When the main character challenged it, she just kind of was like, oh well, you couldn't tell me what oh well, whatever, I just do it. Girl, do you have principles? Because I really don't think you do. If you want some D, just like, I get it, but don't pretend to have principles. Like, the plot could have been interesting if it was half the length, strip all the useless patriarchy bullshit, maybe give some agency to the main character. Oh, you know what? Just make the main guy and the main character. Everyone loves him anyway. He's always right. Why not? I didn't even tell you what it was about. It's about this girl. She's a witch. She's denying being a witch because she doesn't want to be a witch. And she finds this mysterious book in the library one day, and then everyone wants the book. Well, this is it for our worst books of 2019. Can't believe it. When I was looking about my Goodreads, I was like, okay, what's the worst books I read this year? I was like, I didn't read that many bad books, you know. I always think like, I don't feel that bad about the books. But then I found a couple that I was really not loving. And I actually was like, this is awful. And some I thought disappointed, but they're not terrible, you know. So it's all in all a mixed bag. But if you want to know my favorite books of 2019, I'm going to link that video somewhere. Thanks for coming into the new year with me. Hopefully the next video will be super positive. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in my next video, and bye!